Born ready. All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Nun Beis Yavamas, and away we go. So we're talking about quoting from the Mishnah. We had cases of Gerach Aged, Maimer Chamaimer. So it says it brings the case and it says Ketzad, and then it brings a different case of Gerach Aged. So the Gemara asks, "Hi, Gerach Aged." Top line of Nun Beis Amud Aleph, first word, first line. Is this an example of Gerach Aged? Some Rav Yehuda Hachi Kamar. No, this means it said Gerach Aged to Maimer Chamaimer. The case of Gerach Aged, one gives get to to one lady, and then he gives to the other one or Maimer to one and the other. That was a simple case we said. Yavam Echad, Yavam Echad, Yavam Achas Ketzad, and there's one Yavam and single Yavama. What's the case of get with Maimer? So he says, so what's the case? Ketzad Hatra. So how does he matter? So Asa Maimer b'Yavimto. He first does Maimer with the Yavimto, v'Nasan la get, and then he gives her a get. So that was the case. Now we're just telling you how to read the Mishnah. That it wasn't talking about Gerach Aged or Maimer. It was talking about a case of where he first does Maimer and then he gives her a get. Then he still has to go ahead and give her a chalitza. Fine. Now, also a Maimer ubal. If he does Maimer first and afterwards he's bal. So Harezu commits vasa. So Gemara says, let's say it's the proof of Rav Huna. Dama Rav Huna mitzvah siyavama mikadesh v'achar kach boya. The mitzvah of Yibum is to do Kiddushin first, right? And afterwards to be Baal. And afterwards, in other words, even though the Torah just says to be Baal, to do Yibum straight, and when we say Yibum, that just means Bia, even though we say do Yibum. So what it really means is you go ahead, you give her Kesef Kedushin first, and then after you're Mekadesh her, then you do Yibum. So that was according to Rav Huna. So Ema Avzek Mitzvasa. So Gemara says, no. So maybe it just means this is not the only way to do it first, Maimer and then Yibum. Rather, this is also Kmitzvasa. This is also, in other words, you could just do Yibum, right? You could just do Bia, right? Or, right, you could do Maimer and Bia. Either one works, right? As I says, Pshita, it's obvious. So I mean, Kevan Damar Marhoisa, Maimer Yivito, Parchaim and Zikas Yivamin, V'chalav Zikas Arusav and Asun. Maybe I think it was once quoted that one who does Maimer with his Yavama basically loses the Zika of the Yibum, and now he's supposed to be marry her, regular marriage. It's not really part of the mitzvah of Yibum anymore. Same alav mitzvah kavod. So therefore, maybe I would say that if one does Maimer and then does Yibum, it's not a mitzvah. So Kamash Blan, it's a mitzvah. So Gufa, we're, I don't know, around 10, 11 lines from the top, second word of the line. Gufa.
The start of the mitzvah, he's reserving his chance.
Maimer, so
like I have a reservation, now I'm going to go
according to basically most, except for that Amar Mara that we just brought. Gufa, Amar Rav Huna, mitzvahs Yibumim Mikadesh v'achar kach baya. So we just said the mitzvah of Yibum is not to just straight bia, rather to be first to do Maimer, to do Kesef Kedushin. All right, and then it says v'achar kach baya. V'im bal v'asaba Maimer, and if he does just if he's bal, then he does the other way around. Then kana, and im bal v'asaba Maimer. Pshita, it's obvious. What I mean, if he does bia first, right, and then afterwards Maimer.
If he just bal, he's yotze. He doesn't have to be bal.
He doesn't have to do Kiddush, right? So the Gemara says v'im bal v'asaba Maimer. Pshita, it's obvious. Dakani b'bia. He already acquired her through the bia, because bia is all you need when it comes to the mitzvah of yibum. That's what the Torah prescribes. So ela ema. Rather, it means to say that if he was bail her, he had relations with her without Maimer, he acquires her. Vatanya loike. We learn in a brisa, one who is mekadesh her, right? Excuse me, one who does yibum with her, he just has bia with her, right? Without any sort of Maimer, he gets malchus. Vatanya loike, which is mashma deraisa. In other words, it's no good. So why answers no malchus midrabban? No, he only gets Malchus D'Rabbanan. Why? Because he didn't give her Kesef Kedushin, and he just went straight to the Bia, right? And therefore, it's not that we give Malchus D'Rabbanan because we don't want that. And why?
So, in other words, we're saying the Maimer is a mitzvah D'Rabbanan that is required.
So the Gemara says, but in the end we say it's not required, right? But it's preferred. It's preferred.
So then why are we giving the guy malchus?
Because you didn't do the preferred method. You did it away, which wasn't what we'll soon see right now. To Rav, Menaged, Rav used to give malchus. He used to give slap people, right? But not real malchus deraisa. They used to malchus derabanan, man the mekadesh rabia. Now we know, right, that there's the beginning of the Gemara Kedushin. There's three ways. Normally we talk about mimer and be mekadesh a woman. The standard way is money, right? That's the standard way. Whenever the Gemara talks about it, just think that's the money case, right? So with money over here, if one is mekadesh, says, I learned the Mishnah, right? I can be mekadesh rabia, and I'm going to go ahead and have bia l'shem kedushin. So he used to go ahead and give malchus for that, right? It's not proper. It's not proper conduct. Or one who is mekadesh woman in the marketplace, it's not sneeze, it's not appropriate. Or he's mekadesh a woman without any sort of arrangements. Or one who sends, he writes a get, send another messenger, and then he tells others to go ahead and cancel the get, creates confusion. Or one who's getting basically being forced to write a get, and he basically tells people, witnesses, hey, I'm being forced, and therefore he's ruining the get. And also one who bothers, and in this case with those who are sent from the Rabbanan. And also he used to give malchus to man the Rabbanan, right? Or also a person who's put in chayrim, right, and he's there for at least 30 days without coming to the Beis Din and trying to go ahead and appeal his chayrim. So, and also a nechasan, a newly married son-in-law, to live in his in-laws' house. It's not appropriate, right? Because there's, he's the older son-in-law and the mother-in-law, so it's not appropriate. The Gemara says the chalifo. He only gives malchus to those who live, right? Who lives by his mother-in-law. But he does only not if he passes by. Right? Rav Sheshes saw there was a person, he was passing by his in-law's house, and he gave him malchus. It wasn't appropriate. So what was going on there? So that person, I guess there was already rumors about him and his mother-in-law. So therefore, even when he passed by, Rav Sheshes gave him malchus. But nevertheless, going back, even though all these things are mutter, right? Mutter mekadesh should be a mutter to go ahead and be mekadesh without shidduch, so on and so forth. Nevertheless, they will give malchus to Rabbanan because it wasn't such appropriate behavior. So Nahardia Amri said Nahardia b'kulu nagid Rav el mekadesh bia. No, Rav only would be to give malchus to those who mekadesh bia below shidduchi without any sort of arrangements. V'ikadam says I feel b'shidduchi even through arrangements. Nami mishum b'ritzusa, because it preaches one who's mekadesh bia, right? To gets malchus. Fine. Taner Rabbanan. Which, if you're makadesh with bia, right? Now we're talking about our case. Mimer, that's not mimer. That's not yibum. That's not one who is makadesh. The shame, ishus, right? With bia, that works. That's that's the Mishnah, right? But regular bia only works. No, by yibum. Then you don't need any sort of arrangements before. But regular marriage, right? That just regular bia does not kind of anything. Regular bia does not kind of anything unless he does it, right? It's like you give someone money. If I give a woman money, I don't marry her, right? I bet a woman, okay, whatever it is, this is, the next bus will be blue. And it's the red line, right? So I give her money, it doesn't mean she's my wife, right? So I give her bia, it doesn't mean she's my wife. That's how it works. Fine.
Does the woman have to have das?
Yes, yeah. Yes,
Wait to Kiddushin.
Yeah. So Torah about a Kate said mimer. What is mimer? So what is mimer? So Naslan Kesef or Shava Kesef. He gives her something, either money or something worth money, and he gives it to her. Ubashtar Kate said, what are the kids of star? So Bashtar Kate said, what do you mean star? How's it work? Like we said, Kasala al Haniyar or Cheres Abishem Shava Pruta. If he writes on a piece of paper or a piece of earthenware, right? Even though the paper and the piece of earthenware are not worth a pruta. But he writes on there, Hareya Mikudeshesli, and he writes Mikudeshesli, then she's married. So this is the question. Shtar, Ksuba Sivam Ketzad. What is the shtar of the Ksuba for the Yabama Ketzad? How is that written to her? So Kasavla, so the brother writes to her, Anna Ploni Bar Ploni, me, son of whatever, son of Sam, right? Ploni Bar Ploni. Kavilas Yas. right? So he said, yes, plainis yivimti alai lozu parnasa karoi. I accept upon myself to go ahead and support this woman, to sustain her and to support her properly. However, her ksuba, right, that which if he goes ahead and divorces her, that she gets a ksuba, she gets money returned, that will be that is going to be a lien upon the assets of the deceased husband. So therefore, the ksuba is on him, but I will support her throughout. Marisha, and if there is no assets in the first one, there's no ksuba. Then the Rabbanan say no. The second brother has to provide a ksuba because know that she shouldn't be easy for him to go ahead and divorce. Fine. You are divorced from me, but you're not permitted to any other man. Right? Harsh. Now, we know when it comes to by gittin, the halach is there has to be a complete severance, right? You have to separate. So over here, it's not so separating. He says, okay, you're divorced from me, but you're not permitted to other men. So it's strings attached, right? A big string attached, right? So Mao, what's the case over there? Do we say now? This is only we're talking about the case of the get by the other. So do we say get yivama derabanan who and get? So we say there since the get is by yibum is only derabanan. Well, it's right because it's not prescribed, right? Who derabanan who get the mahani beish is ish mahani biyavama. Right, only a get that works with a regular woman, regular marriage that would work. That would work in this case of you. However, get loy mahani be'eshes ish, but a get such as this one, right, which does not work by a regular woman. So we say also loy mahani b'yavama wouldn't help with the yavama. So in other words, if he gives her a get first because he doesn't know the halacha, he gives her a get, and the get says, "Hey, you're divorced from me, but but you can't go to other men." That doesn't work. Aduma asechluvi begita, or perhaps people might get confused because if he goes ahead and gives a regular get, then we hold over there that there's significance to that, and he can no longer take her to Yibum. But people might see that if someone gives a bad get, which said that you're divorced from me, but you're still forbidden to everybody else, if they see that case and that doesn't work, and then she goes ahead and does Yibum with another brother, right? Because there was no get there was no shul yivna. So people might get confused in the case. We're confused that they might think that this is the same as giving a good get, that a good get is ineffective at all. So therefore, we'll say, even though this is sort of a bad get, or it is a bad get, nevertheless, it is effective because we don't want people to confuse the case with a good get. So Maskiblo Rabba Barchanon Elmiata Yevla Nairabi Alma gives her a piece of paper. It says, okay, and he says, there's nothing written on it, right? And he says it to her. So people might confuse it. If I saw a piece of paper given to by one brother, which is nothing, and then another brother took her in Yibum, so why not get confused in that case with one brother gave a get, and then the other brother took her in Yibum? Hachanami the pasla. Maybe in that case you should pasla. So really hasim like pasla bekuna. Over there, getting a piece of paper does not passel her from kuna. Meaning Truma and Mary Cohen considered to be a gusha. However, hacha kapasa bekuna, but over here it would affect her status as a grusha. Why? It's a title in her Baisa. It says V'isha grusha, me'isha loikach. It says a woman who's divorced from her husband loikach. You can't go ahead and take her back. Afilu is garsha ella me'isha. Even if she only was divorced with him, loikach, right? So reach haget. So we see that even a reach haget, even something which she's not divorced when it comes to other people, but she's just divorced from her husband. Legabe, your husband, she's considered to be divorced, and that passes bekuna. So to over here, we would say that only if the get says you're divorced from me, but you're still forbidden to other men, that's called a reach haget, right? It has the resemblance of a get, and therefore we'll decree that this is like other gittin.
I don't know, maybe this episode,
Yeah.
but what's the point of that? Like, what does that even mean? She doesn't get.
When he says,
what does she do now? Like, there's no.
Right.
It doesn't actually mean anything.
So in the case of Yibum, right, it's a problem. In a normal case, regular marriage does nothing. Right?
Okay.
In this case, by Yibum, we're worried it's going to be similar. People will confuse with a good get, and therefore we say it has the same power in the other. Because even the get by Yibum is only derabon, it's not deraisa. So we can't say
it's not considering.
That's nothing. It has to be complete severance. There can't be strings attached. Fine. So he says, sorry, Amru Echad. So one goes into tells the Sofer, he says, Kasav get l'rusasi. All right, it's very romantic. Write a get, right, for the woman who I'm engaged to, I'm betrothed to, and write her when I marry you, I will divorce you. No, this guy's good. Once I marry you, I'm going to divorce you. Right? Write that out. Harez a get. This is a valid get. Even though it's written before, it's fine. There's another issue, but this is considered a valid get. Why? Because he's able to divorce her now. Remember, if a woman is Mekadesh, a woman, he still has to divorce her. So since I can divorce her now, so write a get that even after Nesuin, I'm going to, you'll be divorced. That works.
When he does with the second wife.
And the condition.
Condition, yeah. It's a similar.
Right, but over here he's saying he's reserving the right, to go ahead.
It's a condition.
Right, that she's divorced, that she's married and divorced right away. All right. Uliisha be alma, but when it comes to a regular woman, ain't get me pnei ain't be other garsha. But a regular woman, if I write a regular woman, I'm not already mekadesh to her, and I write when I will marry you, I'm going to divorce you. That doesn't work. Why? Because I can't divorce her right now.
No, right.
If I was engaged to her, and this is what I will take you in the suin, and I will divorce you. That works because I can give her the get right now. Because she's already right married or whatever, linked to this guy. Right? She's betrothed him. Right. However, a regular woman doesn't work. Now, so what's the shakas? So Bayram Rachama Livimto Mao. What else do we say that the Zika sort of makes her like his arusa? But over here, since he didn't do mimer, right? There's nothing going on yet. She's just waiting for yibum or chalitza. So maybe it shouldn't work at all because he can't do anything now like a regular woman. So the Gemara does not answer. So a person writes a get to a woman who he has zika with. So it says over there, I'm divorcing you from this bond from the yibum. But he doesn't say right now. What happened? He gave her kesef kedushin. He wasn't supposed to. I said, I got to give her a get. So I'm divorcing her zika, but I'm not divorcing her mimer. All right, if that makes sense. Or he says, I'm divorcing you from the marriage part, but I'm not removing you from your zika.
So what does that mean? I'm divorcing the marriage part, but I'm going to get remarried to you. You can't lock it.
What do you mean? He's divorced. There's two bonds she has to connect to. One is that she just got kesef kedusha from this guy. Okay. The other issue is that she sort of has the zika. She has this bond that she has to do yibum or chalitza to him.
Right.
So he's only divorcing her for one of the items and not the other.
Right, and that means that the other brother cannot take her because he already gave her kesef shtar, but there's still.
Well, that wouldn't be able to do this. But the question is she still linked to him? Right? Does this work or not? Or maybe it's ineffective at all. So what's the halacha here? Mimer zika karami. Maybe the mimer is only connected to the zika. It's like a woman is divorcing, a man is divorcing half a woman. And one divorces a half a woman does not work at all. So in other words, it's completely ineffective. Right? If Rabbi knows what does it do? It does nothing. She's still considered to be mimer to this guy. Dilma. Hi, each thing is separate. The mimer is separate. The zika is separate. I have a teacher with the Rava. Why don't you learn from Rava? Dema Rava. Nasan ged lemaimaro. The hutra tzarasa. Let's say there were three. This goes back to earlier case. There were three brothers. Real quick, there were three brothers. One guy, right? Reuben, right? Married one, and he died. And Shimon was also married, and he did mimer with this woman. And then after the mimer, he gives her a get. He gives her a get. And then he died. Shimon died. Hutra tzarasa. The tzara is mutter to go ahead and do yibum. In other words, we don't consider this woman to have the zika of two husbands, right? Because he gave her a get to the mimer. So what do you see over here? He gave her a get to the mimer, but not to the zika. So it works. So Gemara answers no. So no, according to Rava, he's Pash, we're asking according to Chananya. So what's halacha? So take it. He did not answer such a case. Fine. Chosas a mimer. So Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, Zodi Rabbi Akiva. Now let's go back to what we said. We said one does chalitza. All right. Let's say there's two women, or even one woman, right? Chalatz. He does chalitza to her, and then he does mimer. So when he did a chalitza, he completely severed everything.
Right.
All of a sudden, he's giving her kedushin. So Amar Rav Yehuda. So but what is it? So Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, Zodi Rabbi Akiva. This is the law, because the law says if you didn't build your brother's house, you can't take her, right? That's the law. So according to Rabbi Akiva, it's nothing. Right. It's a law. It's not Isser Kares, because it's only kedushin, but it's a lav, right? So Rabbi Akiva, Zodi Rabbi Akiva, the Amar, and kedushin taisir chavi lavin. Why is it nothing if I do chalitza first and then I try to do mimer? Only according to Rabbi Akiva, because he holds that if there's an Isser lav between this man and the woman, then the kedushin does not work at all. The only Rabbi Akiva the Amar any kedushin taisir chavi lavin about chachamim yesh acher chalitza klum. No, it's a problem, right? You got to now divorce her, right? You did mimer, you got to divorce it out. So nevertheless, it must be according to Rabbi Akiva. Can we establish that Rabbi Akiva? Octana Reisha says in Reisha, Nasan get, Vyasa mimer. If he gives her a get, and then he does mimer, Shricha gave a chalitza. Now you have to re-divorce her again from the mimer, and then do chalitza. The Rabbi Akiva. What do you mean?
Because once she does chalitza, now there's almost.
Well, we're talking about
Therefore, she can't marry her brother-in-law.
No, because there was a mitzvah to marry her. Right. But now it's the lav of the Shulo Yivna. Shulo Yivna.
It might be Kares too, because now since there's no mitzvah of Yibum anymore.
Right, but that already ceased. We had machlokes earlier whether it comes back. Right, there was machlokes we had earlier in the Masechta. Right, but according to the Rabbanan Shita is that. Right. Yeah. Right. Right, because once it was matir from the mitzvah. Now, if it was never matir at all for yibum, then it would stand. Yeah. Be Rabbi Kiva, but according to Ratio, it says he gives her a get and his mimer says a get. Be Rabbi Kiva came in the Avla get. The mimer. Once he gives her a get and he tries to do mimer again, should that work? Vatanya, Rabbi Kiva, how do another one goes ahead and gives a get to his yivama that she's forbidden forever? Right? So it says he can't go ahead and take her that he sent her already. After the get, once he gives her a get, maybe, right? Then the mimer shouldn't work at all. So Ramashi, get Yivamim midrabanan. No. The get is only midrabanan. It's not the raisa of this pasuk over here. And you brought a pasuk. I was not going to be alma, and the pasuk is only a hint. But really, if you do chalitza, which is the raisa, then you do mimer afterwards, ineffective. Right, but maybe you could argue the Rabbi Akiva that if you give a get and then you did mimer, that could be that's effective because the get was only midrabanan, and therefore it's not considered to be the same lot. So Tanya Amar Rabbi ain't had the Akiva. These are all according to Rabbi Akiva. Because he's according to Rabbi Akiva, once the woman is a chalutza, right, she's like an erba to him, and therefore the kedushin richal. Yesh achar chalitza klum. Right, there is after chalitza. In other words, even though you did chalitza and you did mimer afterwards, we got to suspect that mimer got re-divorced or get divorced from that. And I say, Amasai, when is this? Right, listen, Reuben, listen up. When is this? Bisman shakid shalashim ishus. Only if he's mekadish shalashim ishus. All right. In other words, he gives her chalitza, right? And then when he gives her money, it depends what he's thinking, right? If he says, okay, I'm being mekadish with this for marriage, then that would be a chashish for him. Yeah. Right, because then he wants to marry her, so then that's the machlokes. But I would say, right, that if he says he gives her chalitza, and then he says, "Oh, take this money as the beginning of our yibum," then it's nothing because since he gave it l'shem yibum, right now l'shem ishus, l'shem yibum, the yibum is already gone. You did a chalitza 20 minutes ago, therefore going this shit's nothing. And Tani Yidach, we learned in a similar in a brayso chalitza yivimto. One who does chalitza to his yavama, basically he stopped the zika. We're done. We're not married. You can go ahead and marry what the chaz of a kicha, and he goes back and he gives her kesef kedushin. Rabbi Yomer im kicha l'shem ishus. If he gave her that money, he says, "Hey, we take this money in order to be makadesh, to be like a regular man and woman, then tzichem and a get. Then we have to be chayshish for this kedushin, and he has to go ahead and divorce her from that. However, if he gives her the kesed l'shem yivamas, if he says, okay, let's do it because for yibum, ain't tzichem and a get. You don't need a get because that was done for something which is no longer is shayach because you already did the chalitza because there's no yibum anymore. And again, now we're always concerned whether it's mekadesh for ishas or yivamas, then you need a get. And Amar Rav Yosef, my time with the Rebbe. What's the reason according to Rebbe who says that if he does it l'shem yibum, you don't need anything. We're not worried. Amar Rav Yosef, my time with the Rebbe. He's making my case. A person is working on a field, right? And only it's a way of a kind of field is you work it to show your bias, and it happens to be basically in Hefker land, okay? And it was owned by a ger, a guy who died. He has no relatives, so it's like Hefker. And he was working the land, but he thought it was his own land. So he wasn't thinking that I'm acquiring the land now. He was thinking, I'm working my own land. So he does not acquire the land there. So to over here, right? According to Rebbe, right? He thinks he's doing yibum, right? But there's no yibum shayach. So if you would have thought it would have been okay. But since you give it for the wrong reason, it doesn't work. So Abayi, what's there? How can you compare those two? Over there, in the case when you're working your field versus you're working a Hefker field, so you're not thinking about acquiring something. But Hachab in this case, right? Over here, you think you're getting her through yibum. It's just not yibum, it's ishus, right? So, but he still thinks he's acquiring it. So right? The Kani is more similar to a case of I think I'm going ahead and working the field of Bob, who is the ger who died with no relatives of land is after, but really I was in Steve's land, right? And therefore that in that case he would acquire it. So Rabbi Hakamai could go into Amarla. He tells her he's kachili b'maimer yivam. Marry me, right? He does chalitza first, right? We're still talking about after chalitza, right? He does chalitza first, and afterwards he gives her kesser. He says, "Be mekadesh b'maimer yivum." So he uses both lashon, right? He's kadshi, right? It's kaddish b'maimer yivum. Rebbe saver maimer ilu zika karami. Rebbe held that what the maimer is dependent on the zika, right? V'asya chalitza kisa the zika, and then the chalitza got rid of the zika, and therefore the maimer is nothing, and therefore you don't need a divorce her. You're never married to her after that. Each one is different. So Meikara, right? Now each one is different. The Maimer and the Zika, and so therefore it's separate. Meikara in the beginning, if you would have done it right away, right? If you would have told her, be Mekadish Li, if you never did Chalitza, you would have said he's Kachli b'Maimer Yevumin, be like Chalitza. And Rav Amar Idam Rabba Maimer Yevumin. If he just told her Maimer Yevumin Kulam Lei Pligi to behind it, that works. It says right because Maimer Yevumin. Bahacha over here, Babaiskin. I could go into Amrla. He's consciously Bezika Yevum, right? Be Mekajmi with a Zika. So Rebbe Saver, just the last point. So Rebbe held that Ye Zika Vasi Chalitza Vakisa the Zika. Rebbe held that there is Zika, and then the Chalitza got rid of it, and therefore, since the Zika is gone, therefore the Maimer is gone. Rabban Sabri, Rabban hold that no, ain't Zika Mekar. There is no strong bond in the beginning to begin with. And Ilu Amar Lais Kachli Bezikas Yivumin Mila Mahani. And therefore, if he told her in the beginning, be Mekadishli with the Zika the Yivumin when that helps. Hashanami so over here, Mahani will say that so too that since that even since it would have been effective if there was no Chalitza done, we'll say it's even effective if after Chalitza was done. All right, we'll stop here. Shkayach, everybody.
Great day.